Don't you just love a great movie tagline? They're punchy, enticing, and sum up beautifully what the film's about. Taglines like, "Who you gonna call?" Classic. Or what about, "In space, no one can hear you scream." Ooh, isn't that creepy? No one can hear you scream. "Escape or die frying." Huh? You know the kids are gonna love that one. This time he's fighting for his life. But why? Who is he? What's different this time? Will he survive? I need to know. 犯我中华纸，虽远必诛. Wait, what the fuck? 犯我中华纸，虽远必诛?
In English?
Oh, sorry. Don't worry. I got this. Anyone who offends China, no matter where they are, must be killed.
You're ready to die for your country.
Amidst the chaos of the current pandemic, it's encouraging to see Western politicians and pundits alike begin to take China more seriously. Up until now, the rise of Beijing has felt like a side issue, almost, and many are still labouring under the delusion that the main threat to life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness is Vladimir Putin. But China is the world's second biggest economy, third largest military, and more importantly, they have their own dream. A dream colourfully summarised in Wu Jing's 2017 domestic blockbuster, Wolf Warrior 2.
Wolf Warrior.
Now, without wishing to get too exercised about it, this has to be the most blatant piece of cinematic propaganda I've ever seen. Now, full disclosure, I haven't seen the films made under Goebbels in the 1930s, right? I haven't seen Triumph of the Will. I haven't sat through The Eternal Jew. So, look, I assume they're worse, right? But this is pretty stark, and I'm going to take you through it in the manner of some of my favourite YouTube film reviewers, because I think we need to focus our minds on exactly what we're up against. Oh, and spoiler alert, obviously. Wolf Warrior 2 is set in a fictional African country where the Chinese have a substantial presence. A presence that is highly beneficial, providing jobs for African workers, modern infrastructure, and even father figures to remedy the epidemic of single-parent households throughout the black community.
Who am I?
My Gandia.
You can't tell your mother about this. What would she think? 我说了.
Sure, we get wind of the occasional local with a chip on his shoulder.
What the fuck do you think you are? Come on.
But this person is clearly suffering from sore loser syndrome, and the sooner they recover and make peace with their new Chinese overlords, the better. A civil war breaks out for entirely unspecified reasons, and our hero, a special forces operative named Long Feng, volunteers to rescue Chinese citizens and factory workers caught up in the fray. We know Long Feng's a hero because we've just witnessed him save a Chinese family from a satanic construction worker.
还真拿自己当回事了是吧？给我打，都上！
Where did they get all those sticks from? Anyway, the Chinese Power Rangers save the day, and Long Feng murders Satan in front of many witnesses. He's clearly the man for the job and sets off to get those poor civilians out of there. You quickly begin to wonder why this act of bravery is required, given that just about every African in Nigeria, from the Prime Minister to the rebels fighting him, are aware of the Chinese, how important they are, and that they should factor into just about every decision made, leading to the ridiculous spectacle of bloodthirsty warlords declaring indefatigably
that we cannot kill the Chinese,
while at the same time mowing down entire towns of men, women and children with relish.
No! Chinese! Go!
All of this serves to bolster the narrative that China is not only a force for peace and stability in the region,
We are Chinese!
but that all parties involved understand this and grant them special status.
I am Chinese.
The West, by contrast, is presented as either impotent or evil. As violence escalates, the Chinese fleet arrives to evacuate its citizens. A soldier dutifully informs his commanding officer that all foreign vessels have fled the area and questions the decision to dock. Full speed ahead, son. NATO's a bunch of pussies, but we China, biatch! The chest beating continues as Long Feng drives a Chinese-American doctor to safety. The silly sausage naively declares that she contacted the American embassy for help, a notion met with appropriate scorn by our protagonist.
你通知他们的方式是？
我 at 了他们的 Twitter。
Welcome to the American consulate. Unfortunately, we are closed. Please leave.
You see, if the stupid Yanks cared less about Twitter and more about aiding their own people in a crisis, you'd be fine. But they don't, so you aren't. Good thing China's here to pick up the slack. Our military's probably better anyway, a sentiment expressed as our hero refers to a pack of nearby lions.
海军陆战队接你了。
One appears to take offense and gives chase, only to be reliably outpaced by his Chinese superiors. Real subtle guys. Oh look, China has discovered a rare and deadly disease. Best cover it up. But truth be told, it's probably advisable that the West keeps its nose out. White people bring nothing but misery, both past
可是当自诩文明的人再次来到非洲，带来的却是苦难、奴役、疾病和战争。
and present. For we soon learn that the only Westerners who did stay in country as the carnage ramped up are the ones ultimately responsible for it. That's right, trouble in paradise is once again the fault of white people.
Welcome to Africa, son.
It just so happens that the African rebels are in fact directed by the white people to make trouble for the government and by implication, China. And folks, they are every kind of evil. They murder indiscriminately, they torture, they commit all manner of traffic violations, and my goodness, they just hate Chinese people.
You are killing the Chinese? Why are you killing the Chinese?
The cartoonish, one-dimensional wickedness with which our main villains are presented, all of whom are Western, in contrast to the wise, benevolent virtue of our heroes, all of whom are Chinese, is unlike anything I've ever seen. People have compared the movie to Rambo, but anyone who actually saw First Blood, the original Rambo adventure, is perfectly aware that it is, if anything, a movie critical of America. It definitely underlines the negatives of the Vietnam War, and the antagonists are exclusively US police officers who persecute John Rambo, unable to comprehend the psychological trauma he sustained during that terrible conflict. In Wolf Warrior 2, such complexities do not exist. But hasn't the West produced jingoistic propaganda of its own, particularly during the Cold War? I have no doubt, in which case we need to ask ourselves two very serious questions. One, does China consider itself to be at war with us? And two, if yes, shouldn't we be fighting back? The film bounces from one adequate set piece to the next, until we reach a climax so ludicrous I thought my uncontrollable laughter would see me ejected from the theatre. The white people and their troops start killing the Chinese. Again. Because they're really evil. Lung Feng whips out his AGM smartphone. Got that? It's an AGM smartphone. And records the massacre in full HD, because war zones provide a typically shoddy Wi-Fi connection, and everybody needs something to jerk off to. When suddenly, out of fucking nowhere, this fat African begins to sing Amazing Grace, an English hymn long associated with William Wilberforce and the abolition of the slave trade. To claim it's out of place as a backing track to images of bullets tearing through the bodies of people we neither know nor care about is understatement of the week. Lung Feng live streams this monstrosity to the Chinese Navy, all of whom look on in horror. A woman in uniform starts to cry. The sentimentality is positively pornographic. The Chinese military then bomb the shit out of the white people and save the day, proving that individuals aren't the real heroes. Authoritarian governments are. With just one white person left, who also happens to be an American and the primary asshole, Lung Feng takes his chance to show the West what Chinese fists are made of. He wins the fight, of course, which I have no problem with. He is the protagonist after all. The following moment, however, did raise an eyebrow. In accordance with standard Hollywood fare, they fight to a stalemate until the villain starts to cheat and gain the upper hand. With Lung Feng at his mercy, and in a similar manner to that Amazing Grace bullshit from earlier, he declares the following out of fucking nowhere.
People like you will always be inferior to people like me. Get used to it. Get fucking used to it.
Holy shit. Lung Feng then proceeds to beat the white person to a pulp before murdering him in front of many witnesses. As he falls to the ground from exhaustion, our hero offers the perfect retort.
那他妈是以前。
Wow, that's about as subtle as a rhino horn up the cunt. If you can't work out the implications behind that piece of appalling dialogue, I hope you're not planning to breed. But wait, the coup de retard is yet to come. As our characters make their way towards the Chinese embassy, government and rebel forces are about to engage in another bloody battle. Our heroes are tired and outnumbered and will surely be killed in the crossfire. Lung Feng, however, throws away his weapon, unwraps a Chinese flag, ties it to his arm, and I shit you not, waves it frantically to the delight of the warlords.
Chinese! Hold your fire!
Hold your fire! Chinese!
Both sides immediately set down their arms and allow the Chinese to pass unhindered. Because remember, gang, everybody loves China, except for the white people, and they get fucked up. The film ends and I pour myself a whiskey. You know, I rather enjoyed that. I might do more of those. It was quite fun. Look, I'm perfectly aware that given the clunky dialogue, mediocre action and preschool storyboard, it's easy to shrug off a film like this, but I think that misses the point. Wolf Warrior 2 was showered with praise by the CCP upon release, and it also stands as the most commercially successful film in Chinese history. Why? Because of the message. It's all about the message. the scenes featuring the PLA, they could have been clipped from a recruitment video, right? Crisp uniforms, swift ships, and competent soldiers. The philosophy is clearly one of a China growing in power and influence abroad, that first emulates the West and then supplants it as the dominant imperial presence, but with a benevolence and a sense of justice that the Europeans could never have, right? I mean, it is a dangerous fantasy that seeks to rewrite a complex history, exploit a weakened present, and shape a Chinese future. It is a warning shot across the bow of the world, okay? Don't be in any doubt. China is ambitious, China is aggressive, China is coming. And that's the state of things. Now, is that good? Is that bad? Should we react? I don't know. You tell me. I'm just pointing it out.
But one of your biggest films, and probably many Americans watching this would have no idea of it, neither did I, was Wolf Warrior 2.
Yeah.
The film director and star is Jing Wu,
Yep.
who is the biggest star in China.
By far.
Who did you play in Wolf Warrior 2?
Are you ready for this one, Larry? I played a character named Big Daddy, who was the American antagonist, the only American really in the movie. And it was a film, a propaganda film really, about how China is saving Africa and its resources from the big bad Americans. Now, I've been to Africa many times, and the story is a bit different than that. But they paid me a lot of money, and
You're the villain?
I'm the villain. And the Russo brothers, who directed the Captain America movies, were producers on it. And I went over there and made this movie thinking nothing of it. Do you know what I mean? And it made almost $1 billion in China.
What is Jing Wu like?
Ex-military.
Director and star?
Director, writer, and star. It's
Jackie Chan?
Fascinating human being. Really dialed into what the Chinese people are feeling at the moment. Very nationalistic.
Well, no shit.